So can we move now to green space, Greenbelt even, sorry. So there were a few questions sent in, and I believe Greenbelt have got some answers to those. Is that right? Nick, are you covering?
Hello, yes. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Great, thank you.
And I've got Robin as well, so he'll help when we pick up the questions. Robin, do you want to put the plan up? Would that be helpful, do you think, as well, if we put the plan up now?
Okay. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I think some of the questions that we've received as well, and one thing that we need to do is just to clarify what actually our residents paying for and what the areas are. So all of the areas that are shaded dark green on the plan are the areas that we are managing and maintaining. We took access to the development, it was November, December time. That's when the maintenance has started, and the contractor now is visiting the site regularly. At this time of the year, it's probably not the greatest time to take on the maintenance because it's only limited to what you can see. But to give an idea, there'll be at least one visit per month from November right through till March, and fortnightly visits of the areas going through from April till October. That's when the maintenance regime is up to such. The areas that are shaded light green at the moment, we are not responsible for. So if it's shaded light green, it is not Greenbelt's responsibility. If it is shaded dark green, then it is our responsibility to manage and maintain. We have had a few issues over the last few weeks with queries over graffiti. Obviously, we've had the issue as well where the main sign has been damaged as you come in, the structure there where the car ran into it. That's being looked into at the moment. Our operations manager, Martin, is on the case with that one. But yeah, that's the plan going forward with the maintenance, etc. And that's where we'll be with it. I don't know if Robin wants to pick up anything as well.
You may be able to hear me, but really, I mean, all we're doing, obviously, bills went out for early November last year, and that was just to cover the upkeep areas dark green, as Nick has just explained. Now, obviously, there's two parts to the billing process on the site. There is this part dealing with infrastructure open space, i.e. these areas that are highlighted green on this plan. But each household on site also has public open space that sits within their phase 2, and that's phase specific open space. So hopefully at point of sale, all residents would have received 2 plans and 2 estate charge breakdowns. One plan, this plan that you can see in front of us, highlighting all infrastructure open space that all plots on the site contribute towards, and a phase specific plan which highlights open space within their phase. Now, what we got a couple of queries certainly from those 2 phases that we're currently billing for their internal open space. And it was just a little bit of confusion as to why they're having to pay a second fee effectively. Essentially, they've been asked to pay for open space within the phase, and this additional charge that came in early November was for this open space that you see in front of you, this infrastructure open space. Now, it's intended that we'll have one single bill going out that will detail the breakdown of open space within the phase and also infrastructure open space site-wide. And that will hopefully clear up that issue. We have to make sure that we synchronize the adoption of to make that happen, we have to synchronize the adoption of open space as we go through the calendar year. But we can do that. We can send out, say, partial bills that will take us up to essentially what will probably from now on be the billing period, i.e. from November, 1st of November to 31st of October. So we'll try and sync the issuing of bills for all these areas of open space to that time frame. One query that came up was, a question that came up and was flagged up recently, was that some residents obviously at the point of sale have made a contribution to their house builder. Now, in those situations, so when we have to contract with each individual house builder on the site. That's prior to us being able to actually send out bills and access open space within a phase. Once we've actually secured a house builder contract, it's at that point that they pass on any monies collected off each house purchaser. Now, so far, we have 4 completed house builder contracts for each of the phases. We have another 2 ready to exchange this month, and then the others will come on stream. So at some point, we will get any contributions that have been made at point of sale, that they will be passed to us in due course, and then we will credit that to each individual's account. So in most cases, the money hasn't made its way over yet, but it will happen, and you will eventually see that credit amount on your or each resident's account. So that was one question that was raised. Another question that was raised was whether the housing association plots can contribute or should contribute. Now, this was a question that's been up in the air a little bit over the last few years, but we came to the conclusion, having looked at in more detail the plot transfers for the HA plots, that there was an obligation to contribute to not just internal phase open space, but site-wide open space. So we've reached out to the housing associations to explain this, and after some dialogue and communication, we have included them into the billing regime. So they are contributing to all the open space that you see on this plan, and also will contribute to phase-specific open space. Nick, is there anything you feel that you need to add more? Or?
Bear with me. Hang on. Yes, just going back, I'd just like to say as well that we've started up a really good relationship with the town council over this last few months, since we've, well, firstly, when we've met with them at the residents meeting that we held in October, and it's been good that we've been able to support them with the donation of the Christmas tree. We're also looking to help and try and support with regards to the running events that they've got coming up this year, and will continue to do so. One thing I've tried to mention to Mark previously at the town council and other people as well is the importance of that. If there is any issues that they see with regards to maintenance or whatever, please contact the customer care department, because that way the call can be then logged and passed on to the operations manager for the development. We are keen to make sure that we keep on top of the maintenance, but there is a correct way, obviously, of reporting any incidents that they see, or if they've got any questions or queries or any billing queries, that way they can be picked up quite quickly, logged, and the call we've dealt with. I try and will look to meet with Mark later this year, but probably around March time, so we can have probably a walk around the development and see how things are going. So it's my intention to keep things open with the dialogue and to keep moving forward with the town council, because we are keen, as I said, to keep this moving, and obviously it's a long-term thing. So yeah, but we're more than happy with what we're doing at the moment. If there's any other questions, by all means, please ask.
Yeah, Nick, a question. One of the questions that got raised earlier this week was the question, the question about hard standing in roads within the site. So Greenbelt are not going to be adopting any major state roads or spine roads on the site. However, from phase to phase, on some of the phases, probably about half of them, there is small elements of hard standing that each house builder has asked us to look at, and those are small private driveways or parking courts. And they'll usually be denoted purple on a plan.
So they'll be highlighted slightly in a different colour, but they would be normally highlighted in a purple or lilac colour on the plan if it was to be any, structures in that sense that we would take on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're costed up separately. So usually there's a small additional amount to the annual charge to allow for those areas. So those areas, yes, as Nick was saying, are usually highlighted a purple. Sometimes if there's a private driveway and a parking court, they're differentiated with a light blue colour and a purpley colour. But they will be on the plans that you should have all residents should have received at point of sale. Obviously, when it comes round to us engaging with the phases, and we will liaise with each phase separately when it comes to billing that phase for phase-specific open space, we will reissue those phase-specific plans, which will highlight those areas and show the differentiation of green open space, which is in our typical light green colour, and then obviously hard standing in a light purple or blue colour.
So yeah, just to reiterate what Robin's saying, so if there's a phase that come over, let's say the next phases as they come over per parcels of individual land, certainly now the restrictions, hopefully they will, not be enforced and will be in another lockdown. My intention to meet with residents, even if it's just outdoors, just to explain what we will be doing on that individual parcel of land and the service that we will provide going forward. But it's just important to know that that is separate from the infrastructure that we are maintaining. So it'll be the individual parcels of land that I would be meeting on. Happy to take questions if there's anything with regards to the infrastructure, but it'll be predominantly about that, individual parcel of land that we'll give information about, and go from there. Okay.
Okay, great, thanks. There's been an additional, I've just been chairing, so I'm not sure if you've covered this, but it was a question on the private roads that are not adopted by the council. And is Greenbelt the appointed party to look after these? It's in the Q&A.
Yeah, so just to recap that. So on some of the phases, some of the house builders have generated additional hard standing that they couldn't get adopted, and those are typically shared driveways and parking courts, and the odd visitor parking bay, which sits around and within the phase. So yes, those areas, there are not that many of them, but they do exist on some of the phases. They're highlighted on the individual phase plans that each householder should have now received, that certainly have taken up occupation. Certainly, if any householder doesn't have their phase-specific plan, then feel free to contact the customer care hotline number that's on the communication, and we will email out a plan or send hard copies to them. So that's not a problem, but certainly they should all be, these small areas of hard standing should now all be highlighted on their phase-specific plans, along with any additional open space within those phases too.
Thanks. And these private roads are handed over from the developer, I'm assuming?
Yes, so they're passed to the developer, who then in turn passes it to each plot purchaser.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, guys. I think that's what we've got covered. The one additional question that we had related to this was more for South Cams. So if I could ring back Peter Campbell, who, along with looking after new builds, has the responsibility for housing at South Cams, lucky man. So just to read out this question, it was a question on estate management fees not being paid, well, but basically that housing association properties are exempt, and how that decision was made, because many private buyers find this to be unfair, as it means the bill's not divided equally by the residents who benefit from all these facilities. So Peter, are you able to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, the question itself is, there's some confusion in the question, is that it's getting the role of the council and the role of housing associations slightly muddled. Housing associations are separate entities from the council, and certainly the council would not cover costs which should quite properly lie with the housing association with regard to ground maintenance. As has been explained by the previous speaker, though, it does appear that the charges to the housing associations are being met. It does sound, though, that fresh to this, it does sound like that's being met from the housing association, but without knowing the specifics, it is very probable, and indeed in most cases, what would happen is that the housing association would levy a charge against the tenant and collect it on their behalf to cover not only their contribution towards ground maintenance, but other costs incurred by the housing association. So that would be the grounds charge is probably one element of a wider service charge, and they're passing that payment across as their fair share. There is one caveat, though, to that, is that some properties are let as affordable rents, and that's a formula that's set by government, which is based on a percentage of the market rent. Within the government guidance, the affordable rent is a total charge and includes the rent and it's inclusive, so it includes the service charge. But that's only a technical issue. It's still, the housing association will still treat it as a rent and a service charge, and it looks very much like they're passing that back for the grounds maintenance. If that answers the question.
It does. Great. Thanks, Peter.